Please be seated. All right, your next witness.
Your Honor, we'd like to call Whitney Henriquez to the stand.
All right. Come forward, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law? I do.
Thank you. All right, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Will you please state your name for the record?
Whitney Henriquez,
And where do you live?
in Glendale, California.
And you're Amber's sister?
I am
How old are you?
34.
So you're her younger sister?
Yes.
Okay. Are you married and do you have any children?
I am. I'm married with 2 small children.
Okay. How old are your children?
A 3-year-old and a newborn. He's just over 2 months old.
And what is your profession?
Before the pandemic, I worked in hotels doing various food and beverage management jobs, primarily events as well.
Now I'm going to take you to Mr. Depp and Amber, the early stages. When did you first meet Mr. Depp?
I met him sometime in 2011 for the Rum Diary press tour, but I did not meet him until 2012 as Amber's boyfriend.
And were you living with Amber at the time?
Yes, we had an apartment together on Orange Avenue. I split my time between there as well as an apartment I shared with my boyfriend at the time.
Okay. Now, describe your relationship with Mr. Depp in the early stages.
We got along really well at first. He was sober at the time, and Johnny, when he's sober, is very bright and beautiful and lovely and kind and generous, and he was very easy to get to know, and frankly, we all fell in love with him at first.
Now, describe your observations of Amber and Mr. Depp's relationship in the early stages.
Again, at first, that was wonderful. They were incredibly in love. I actually, to this day, have never seen my sister fall so madly for somebody. And things were wonderful. They seemed to really understand each other and get along well. But very quickly, this pattern emerged as their relationship went on, that if Johnny was using, there almost always was a fight. There was always a
Objection, Your Honor. Cause for speculation, lack of foundation.
All right, that's the foundation, if you want to lay foundation.
What, if any, changes in their relationship did you observe?
That when Johnny was using, there would be a fight. I saw it firsthand.
Objection, Your Honor. Same objection.
Overruled, that's fine.
Thank you. Please continue.
If he was using or if he was drinking, there was almost always a fight. There was always an argument. There was always a period where they weren't getting along, and it seemed to oscillate pretty quickly. He would be sober for a little bit and then almost just as quickly fall off the wagon and start to use or drink, and there would be some big blowout, and it seemed to go back and forth pretty frequently. There was never an extended period of time where it was one or the other.
What, if any, changes did you observe in Amber over the period of her relationship with Johnny?
At first, Amber was Amber. She was loud, fun, funny. She laughed a lot. She was just this happy, bright, fun-loving thing, always surrounded by friends. And then it was a progression that took over such a long period of time, and it was so slow. In hindsight, it was like watching a slow motion gunshot. She suddenly stopped sleeping as much. She wasn't as funny, she wasn't as loud, she wasn't as gregarious as she used to be. Cut to the end of their relationship, she was so physically unwell. She maybe weighed 100 pounds soaking wet. She was emaciated, she wasn't sleeping. She had developed a heart condition and her eyes were sunken in. She just looked
Objection,
like two different.
Lack of foundation calls for hearsay.
She's giving her observations.
Well, heart condition, I'll sustain as to heart condition.
Okay, other than the heart condition, please continue.
She just, if you were to do a photograph side by side, you would see 2 very different people. And people that knew her throughout the entirety of their relationship saw the same thing.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp exhibiting controlling behavior over the course of their relationship relating to Amber's clothing?
Objection, Your Honor. Leaning.
What, if any, observations did she make about?
I'll sustain the objection.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp's treatment of Amber relating to clothing?
At first, it would be like light jokes, or, she left the house wearing something like, oh, you're going to wear that, or just some joke. It was very subtle, And then over time, again, just like the progression of their relationship, it just intensified. Then suddenly it's, they have the same stylist. He and I forgot her name, but suddenly they have the same stylist, and he had been essentially controlling what she wore to events and things like that. So she went from being able to wear whatever the hell she wanted, and then suddenly she's wearing anything that his stylist wanted her to wear, or wanted him to wear. And her style over time just got more and more conservative.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp with respect to Amber's work?
That too was one thing. At first, he was saying he was protective over the kinds of jobs she was taking. Oh, that's not going to be good for her career. That's not going to be good for this. Not going to be good for that. And then suddenly he has a problem with her taking any sort of job or any sort of audition. And then it became every time that she even thought about taking a meeting, it was another fight. He would often say things like, I don't even understand why she needs to work. I'll take care of her. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of everyone else. She doesn't need to work at all. It was one of those things that he was, at the end, vehemently against her working at all.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp's treatment of Amber with respect to friends?
Again, these are all things that just very slowly over time just changed. At first, he was very inclusive of all of us. At one point, we all lived downtown together in these beautiful lofts. At first that was part of the relationship, was getting to know him and him getting to know us. And then just, again, slowly over time, he took issue with Brandon at one point, and then Brandon wasn't allowed in the fold. Time went on, he had an issue with Io. Io wasn't allowed in the fold anymore. And then at some point, even me, he had accused me of doing something horrendous that I had never done. And then suddenly, I'm not allowed around anymore. And just over time, she had such a small network of people that were there to support her. It was hard to watch.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp's attitude or treatment of Amber with respect to her health?
Amber was she was a pretty healthy person at first. She didn't have any medical issues that didn't need intervention of any sort. But in one of Johnny's attempts to get sober, he had employed Dr. Kipper, who had these nurses, and he had a personal nurse that would administer medication, and I think the intention was to make sure that he stayed clean. And
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Without discussing what the intentions were, just go ahead and give us what your observations were with respect to Mr. Depp, with respect to Amber's health.
Sure. All of a sudden, for really unclear reasons, Amber had her own personal nurse just administering medication, and from what I saw, it was strange. I didn't think Amber needed, medication on the daily or whatever. And then all of a sudden she has a therapist that is employed by Dr. Kipper. Even her medical treatment was somehow controlled by or paid for by Johnny.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation with respect to the control.
Was to control, but paid for. I'll allow. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. What, if anything, did Mr. Depp say about Amber's electronic devices?
Well, every time they fought or had an argument, a device was going to get smashed. She lost a phone, a tablet, a computer. You could almost guarantee that something would get destroyed when they fought. very often there were fights were at least in part surrounded by text messages or something that he would find on her phones or, whatever. And at some point she wasn't even allowed to have passwords on her phone, or if she did have a password, it was something really simple that he memorized, but there was zero expectation of privacy for her in terms of what was on her device or accessibility of her devices.
How many times did you observe Mr. Depp drunk?
Countless. Too many times for me to quantify.
How many times did you observe Mr. Depp high on drugs?
Again, it would be really hard to put a number to that. It was a lot.
And what types of drugs did Mr. Depp use to your knowledge and your observation?
Well, I've done cocaine and drank with him on a number of occasions, so that. He almost always had weed of some sort, marijuana, joints or whatever. I have seen him take MDMA on an occasion, shrooms as well. I once saw him consume a Ziploc bag that had a bunch of just unknown pills, some prescription, some not. He just took them all at once to see what would happen, and he laughed about it. Those are what I can recall.
Okay. Now, you said that you also did cocaine with Mr. Depp, is that correct?
Yes.
What, if any, observations did you make as to what Mr. Depp carried in his pockets?
Well, he always had cigarettes or rolling papers. When I say cigarettes, I mean the tobacco and rolling papers. He always had a joint on him. If he was in a phase of using coke, he would carry around a little pill box that had his cocaine in it. He always had a pocket knife, a lighter, and it's about what I can recall.
Okay. What, if any, behavior changes did you observe when Mr. Depp had been drinking alcohol or using drugs?
Like I said, it was, a completely different version. He was almost unrecognizable when he was drinking and using to an excess. If it was alcohol and coke, he would slur. He would go on these paranoid, delusional rants about things that didn't make any sense. His speech would be slurred. I almost never knew him to use cocaine without drinking. Those were generally combined. When he would smoke weed, he was much more relaxed. He was kind of what you would expect, happy on a couch, laughing. But when he was drinking, he would just get very angry, and he would just say really nasty, unkind things, and it almost didn't, usually about Amber, sometimes about me, but it almost didn't matter if she was in the room or not. He would just say really horrible, horrible, horrible things about her or to her.
Can you give the jury a few examples that you can recall?
Pardon my language, fucking cunt. He called her a fucking used up trash bag, slimy whore, saggy whore. Fucking cunt was thrown out a bunch. Just horrible things like that.
I'm going to take you to March 21st, 2013. We've called it the painting or Keith Richards incident. When did you arrive at the Orange apartment on March 21st, 2013?
It was sometime in the afternoon. I came in, and Orange was typically a very neat, clean place, but as soon as I walked in, there was smoke in the air. Remember, it smelled like cigarette smoke, and there was smoke in the air. So somebody had been smoking inside, which was odd because Amber and I don't smoke, and Johnny used to always just go outside to smoke. But walking a little bit further in, there was like furniture askew. Going into the kitchen, there was, Johnny was sat at our little breakfast nook table that we had there, and he was wearing glasses. He had, there was cocaine in front of him. There was booze in front of him, journal, like no newspaper, things like that, just kind of scattered around at the table. And I sat down to talk to him to see what was going on. And it was really hard to understand what he was getting at. It was really clear that he had been drinking for some time. His speech was slurred, and again, it was really hard to follow what he was trying to tell me. At first, he seemed to be upset that my sister had been photographed with our friend Marie in France. He then started saying that it must have meant that she was having an affair with her, and everyone would be laughing at her. And this woman, her father was a French politician, so he then starts rambling on about, he knows what her father's up to, and her this, that, and the other. And again, it was just this strange paranoid tailspin is the only way I can describe it. That just, it wasn't true. My sister wasn't having an affair with this person.
Objection, Your Honor. I think it's pretty non-responsive at this point.
All right. Next question. Please sustain the objection.
Please describe what your conversations were and your observations were with Mr. Depp.
So as I'm sitting there talking to him, Amber is in the kitchen, and she's not sat at the table or anything. She's kind of hanging back, and Johnny's still talking to me about what the problem was. And then all of a sudden the focus shifts to this painting that has been on the wall ever since Amber and I moved in. And the painting was done by one of my sister's exes. So he was convinced that it was on the wall to taunt him, to tease him, and how disrespectful that he had to wake up next to this painting. And it surely meant that Amber and Tasha were back together again, which of course was not true. But he was then upset about that. He was upset about this painting that was on the wall. I was trying to talk to him, not only to just try to figure out what was going on, but I was trying to get him out of the house because he was already very late for filming this documentary that was being shot at one of his houses.
Was that with Keith Richards?
Correct.
Okay.
That was my understanding of it.
Please continue.
So for hours we sat there. I was trying to, talk to him, make him feel like everything was okay, just try to get him out of the house. His assistant kept coming in and out at one point. And all the while, Amber is just in the kitchen. She's like giving us space, but she's in earshot, and he's saying these things about her. And at one point she tries to come over to like check on him, and she kind of embraces him from behind, and he's just like, fuck off, and continues to say these things about her. And again, we sat there forever, and eventually we did get him to leave the house. So but he insisted that Amber come too, and that if they were going to work it out, she'd have to be there, and they would talk about it at some other point, I guess.
Let me just stop you for a minute. What, if any, injuries did you observe on Amber at that time?
At the time, it was before I had a real understanding of what was going on. It was pretty, I didn't know, frankly. And her face was swollen, but I didn't, and it was kind of red. I thought she had just been crying. And her lip did appear to be cut, but again, that at the time, that wasn't what we were trying to do. It wouldn't have been appropriate to, talk to her about it or anything. That wasn't my focus, frankly. My focus was just sitting there trying to figure out what he was upset about and get him out of the house.
So how long were you at Orange with Mr. Depp and Amber before he left to go to the Keith Richards?
A few hours. I couldn't say, maybe around like 4 or 5 hours. It took a minute.
Now, did you accompany Mr. Depp over to the recording, or did you stay?
I did.
And did Amber go too?
Correct. That was part of the condition of him leaving, is that Amber had to go with us.
All right. Well, please describe to the jury what happened next then on your ride over there.
So Amber and Johnny were sitting in the back. I was in the front with Sterling, the driver. And they weren't saying much back there. There was music playing pretty loudly, so I couldn't really hear what was going on back there. But at some point I heard the back door open, or the back window open, and Johnny is holding our dog out the window. And I froze. I was scared, because I just remember thinking, I knew how inebriated he was, and the dog was very small. I thought if she twitched or, you know, if he lost her somehow, she was just going to go out the window. And Amber, of course, was just saying,
Objection, Your Honor.
Not often to prove the truth of the matter asserted, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection. Next
Okay. Don't say what Amber said. Just go ahead and continue with your observations.
he brought the dog back into the car, and he was just laughing, this really scary, loud, like it was almost like a cackle. And he then made some joke about putting her in the microwave. And that was the joke after that, was putting the dog in the microwave.
Okay. So, during the year 2013, what, if any, marks did you observe on Amber? Any injuries or signs of markings, anything like that?
Occasionally I'd see bruising, cut lips, split lips, weird marks, burns, or I don't know, on her arm, scratches on her arm, things like that. It was just weird, and it was periodic. It wasn't like a constant thing, but there were injuries to her.
And what, if anything, did you do? Did you ask her about that?
I did at some point confront her and ask her, and she...
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Don't tell
Sustain
us.
the objection.
Okay.
Next question.
Okay. But you did ask her about them.
Yes.
Yes,
Objection,
okay.
Your Honor. Same objection.
Next question.
That's fine.
That's okay.
Over.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, I'm going to take you to June 2013, Hicksville. Were you in attendance at that event with Mr. Depp and Amber?
Yes.
Please describe for the jury what you can recall from that event.
So Hicksville is like this, it's this like collection of themed Airstreams. It's like a little, it's in the middle of the desert. It's just like a fun little place to go. So we went with a group of our friends. And yeah, so each one of us had our own little Airstream or whatever. So my partner and I at the time, we got there last. So as we're going around checking out the different Airstreams, because again, each one of them had a different theme, so it was kind of fun to see, you know, who was staying in which theme or whatever. I open Amber and Johnny's, and there's cocaine on the table. And I didn't really think much of it at the time. I was just like, all right, fine, we're all here to have fun. And that night, you know, we sat around the campfire, everyone was drinking, some people were taking shrooms, you know, and then I drank too much, and I went to bed early before everyone else. And then the next day, you know, when everyone was cleaning up, I had heard about something that had happened the night before, and an altercation that...
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Don't tell us what you heard. Go ahead and just tell the jury what you observed.
I observed people cleaning up after what appeared to be just a night of friends hanging out. I then went to my sister's trailer, where she was staying with Johnny, and it looked like a bomb went off in there. There was broken things, things had been skewed. It just looked incredibly messy. It looked like somebody had ransacked it. That's what I observed.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you to September 2013. What, if anything, did you do with Mr. Depp relating to going to London?
So September 2013, that was around the time of my birthday. Amber was filming in London, and she wasn't able to make it back for my birthday. And it was also a friend of ours, Io, also has a birthday the same time, or around the same time as me. And Johnny thought it would be great to load up and surprise Amber on set. He thought she would really enjoy it, and so that's what we did. We loaded up, we went on a plane that he chartered, and I believe my father was with us as well. And yeah, Johnny and I drank and did a lot of cocaine on that plane, and I ended up passing out. But we get to London, and you know, it was wonderful to see Amber, and we had a dinner that night at the hotel that we were staying at, or it was either that night or the next night, I can't remember exactly, but At one point, Johnny picked up a steak knife and he hurled it at his assistant. It missed him, but obviously Nathan got upset and he left, and he was upset as well. And a fight broke out between Amber and Johnny that night. I didn't witness it. I wasn't there. I knew
Objection,
that they
Your Honor, lack of foundation.
All right, I'll sustain the objection.
Okay,
Next
so,
question.
so you can't tell us about it if you weren't there. So
Okay.
what happened next that you are aware of?
I left sometime after that, and when I touched down in Los Angeles, I learned that they had
Objection, Your Honor.
Not after to prove the truth.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
When did they get engaged?
They got engaged at some point when I was on the plane. I left London. By the time I landed in London, they were engaged.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to jump all the way to November 2014, the 2014 Hollywood Film Awards. What, if any, involvement did you have with Mr. Depp relating to the Hollywood Film Awards?
I was called over to where he was getting ready, 80.
And when you say 80, are we talking about Sweetser?
Yes, that's one of the houses that is on that street that Johnny had. He had several houses on that street. 80 was the one that he referred to as like the man cave. That's where he spent a lot of time. So I was summoned to 80, again, following a fight that he and my sister were having. And
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation.
I
Just go on, just don't talk about what you weren't party to. You got
Okay,
there,
I'll
please tell the
Sustain the
jury.
objection. Go ahead.
Okay, please tell the jury what you observed, what happened
Sure.
when you were there.
Sure. When I got there, Johnny was outside and he was very drunk already, and he was continuing to drink. He was, again, rambling about my sister having affairs with people that it just wasn't true, and just kept saying things. It was, that she doesn't need to work, and he doesn't understand why she continues to take jobs. She must be doing it to insult him or to hurt him, or she's only taking these jobs because she wants to meet people. I don't know. The entire time that we were talking, his sister and his assistants at one point, everyone was trying to get him out of the house because he was already very late for this. But eventually they did get him to leave the house. And I saw the award show later at some point.
And what did you observe when you watched the award show?
Unfortunately, an extension of what I had seen at the house. He was still very drunk, actually a little bit more drunk than when I saw him at the house.
And what was he doing that caused you to believe he was very drunk?
Well, he was drinking the entire time that we were talking. And, in general, at this point, I had understood what Johnny looks like when he's drunk. He's stammering. His speech was hard to understand. He was slurring. He was super unsteady on his feet. I recognize what he looks like when he's drunk.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you to March 23rd, 2015. And at this time, were you living at the penthouse suites?
I was.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry.
When approximately did you move into the penthouse suites?
I actually don't know for sure when I moved in. I would take me a minute to remember. It was sometime in 2014, I think.
Okay. And so as of March 23rd, 2015, you're living there, correct?
Yes.
And where are you living in those penthouse suites? What is it called?
So I was in what they call PH4. The layout is, the entire top floor of this building. Johnny owns the mall, and he was kind enough to let us all live there. So I was in PH4. Amber and Johnny were in PH3. I believe Isaac was in 2, and Rocky and Josh were in 1. But the only ones that actually connected were 3, 4, and 5. So again, I was kind of sandwiched between where Johnny and Amber stayed, and Amber's basically closet. So basically you had to cut through to get to one point to the other. So I was sleeping. I woke up to Amber in my bedroom saying, "Can you believe he's cheating on me?"
Objection, Your Honor.
You're not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Thank you.
Overruled. Go
Thank you. Please continue.
She said something. She
No,
said
no,
so-
she said overruled. It's okay
Oh.
for you to say what.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
just briefly what you just explained.
I woke up to her saying, "Can you believe he's cheating on me? Your fucking brother is cheating on me." I got up. I told her to stay right there.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter
That's
asserted.
overruled for that statement. Go ahead.
Please continue.
I instructed her to stay in my apartment while I go and talk to Johnny. So I leave PH4. I leave her in PH4.
And let me just stop. Are you sober, drunk? Have you been drinking?
Oh, rare occasions where I was sober. I was in the middle of the night. I was asleep.
So I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I understood your question. So you were sober?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Please continue.
So I go to PH5 where Johnny, Debbie, and Travis were all standing in the kitchen of PH5. I went down there to talk to him, and again, I can tell he's clearly drunk, and he has a bottle of alcohol of some sort in front of him as well. And again, he's talking to me about how Amber found these text messages between him and a woman called Rochelle, and then he starts saying that this woman was meaningless. It wasn't anything special. She's nothing special. But then he immediately shifted to, well, Amber pushed me. Amber made me do it. Of course, I'm cheating on her. Whatever. And it suddenly became about Amber making him do it. At some point, then Amber is on the mezzanine level of PH5. So it's kind of hard to explain. So the kitchen's down here and the mezzanine's up here. So she's there, it's her little office nook, and she starts shouting at him, saying,
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, Your Honor. She's screaming expletives at him. I mean, that's not offered to prove the truth.
Overruled.
Thank you. Please continue.
They're saying horrible things to one another. Fuck you. He's calling her a fucking whore, fucking cunt, used up trash bag, whatever. They were saying horrible things to one another. She was calling him old and fat. It was a fight. They were saying really nasty things to one another. I leave them in the kitchen to go up the stairs. I was trying to calm Amber down, hopefully get her back into my apartment. And Debbie had come up with me.
And Debbie, who's Debbie?
Debbie was his nurse at the
Debbie
time.
Lloyd?
Yes, I believe that was her name.
Okay.
So we're with Amber on the mezzanine level.
I'm sorry, just so we know who where is. Is it you and Debbie that are with Amber, or is it...
Yes, Debbie, Amber, and I are all in the little mezzanine area. And as I mentioned, the mezzanine overlooks the kitchen and the living room. So Johnny then hurls a Red Bull can and it hits Debbie in the back. She didn't even react. She didn't really seem to notice. But I'm standing up there talking. I'm standing up there. I'm at the top of the stairs with my back to the stairs, and that's when Johnny runs up the stairs. And I'm facing Amber. He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my fucking sister." She smacks him, lands one, and then he grabs. At that point, that's when Travis runs up the stairs after Amber landed one. But by that time, Johnny had already grabbed Amber by the hair with one hand and was whacking her repeatedly in the face with the other as I was standing there. Travis pulls them apart. I get Amber into mine. I close the doors behind me and lock them. I then hear Johnny's voice shouting.
Never mind. Withdraw. Okay. Sorry.
I hear Johnny's voice shouting, I fucking hate you. I hate you both. You fucking cunts. You fucking whores. And I hear crashing. I hear crashing and banging and smashing, and he starts screaming like an animal. And I then just moved Amber into the next room, and I just kept her there all night. The next day, I go, and I see her closet has been completely destroyed. racks were overturned. Yeah, one of the clothing racks had been like tossed down the stairs. There was art off the wall. And down in the kitchen, there was broken glass. Like, the place was destroyed.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 400? Whitney, do you recognize this text exchange here?
I do.
Okay, and it's on March 23, 2015 at 6:57, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, could you describe, just
Objection, Your Honor.
identify it, please?
Yep, sorry, on hearsay grounds.
All right, you want to approach? We'll just take a look.
So this is, can we publish, Your Honor?
Yeah, citizen evidence, yes.
Thank you. So, Whitney, this is dated March 23rd, 2015, 6:57. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's to Kevin. Who's Kevin?
Kevin Murphy, he was Johnny's estate manager.
Okay. And then, Michelle, if you can scroll up. So let's stop at the first one. Can you please describe to the jury what this is?
That is one of Amber's clothing racks on the stairs that lead up to the bedroom area.
Okay. And you took this picture?
I did.
Okay. Michelle, can you scroll up again? And please describe for the jury what's depicted in this photo.
These are more of Amber's racks. These were her shoes and purses and such. Those were all like taken off the walls. And you can see here all of her clothes are on the floor, her shoes.
Okay, thank you. And we're up to the next one. Could you please describe what the next picture depicts?
More of the same, clothing racks that have been kind of toppled over or moved. They were like neat. It looked like it was a closet room. But these ones were just toppled over or moved. This is the room that adjoined my room. So,
okay. Let's go to the next one. And could you describe for the jury, please, what this is?
that's another clothing rack that has been taken down and taken apart, kind of.
Okay. And we'll go to the next one. And please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
Just more clothing racks that have been taken down, moved.
Okay. And please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
Same thing, just more clothing racks that were toppled over.
All right. And we go to the next one.
And this is the kitchen area. This is the taken from the mezzanine level that I was describing earlier, but that looks like broken glass or something, blue ceramic, broken.
Okay. And if we go up, and the top one there looks like part of what was earlier. Let's go to the bottom one. I think we have a bigger picture there. Does that help with
Yes.
what's depicted there?
I still can't tell what it was, maybe a plate of some sort, but there's also a rolled cigarette, a couple bottles of water. But yeah, whatever that blue thing is, it was broken. That's what's all over the kitchen there and also next to the stove.
Okay. Thank you. After the staircase incident, what, if anything, did Mr. Depp ask you to sign?
There was an NDA on my kitchen table.
Can you tell the jury what an NDA is?
It's a non-disclosure agreement. It's basically, my understanding is it's a contract to keep things private, to keep your mouth shut, essentially.
All right. And you were given one or asked to sign one?
I was asked to sign one. I don't believe I signed it. I left sometime after.
So you moved out after that?
It was after this point that Johnny had accused me of selling stories to the media, which were absolutely untrue, but I moved out after that point.
Okay. Now, did there come a time that Amber asked you to move back in?
Yes, February 2016. She texted me asking me to come back.
Okay. And so you were living with her from sometime in February 2016 forward?
I think on and off. I think I had my own apartment by then, but I spent a lot more time at the Eastern after that.
Okay. I'm going to take you to April 21, 2016, Amber's 30th birthday party. Were you present for that?
I was.
Can you please describe to the jury what you observed that night?
It was her 30th birthday, so we wanted to make it, really special. We had made this beautiful dinner, and it was great. All of her close friends were there, and everyone was having a really good time. Everyone was having fun. Johnny showed up very, very late, and he was drunk when he showed up. Amber was obviously upset about it, but there came a time in the party where we all went around the table and said our favorite thing about Amber, just funny memories or whatever. When it came to Johnny's turn, he told this story about how they first met when they met for the Rum Diary. So, he had this story about how she came in to his office and she sat on the couch and her perfect ass left a perfect imprint on the couch, and he wouldn't let anyone sit there after she left that day. And it was one of those stories that everyone was kind of embarrassed. We had all gone around the table saying really nice things about her, and gets to him and he's talking about her ass. We were all kind of embarrassed.
And when did you leave the party that night?
I left pretty shortly after that.
Okay.
And I went home.
What, if any, conversation did you have with Mr. Depp about his plans to attend Coachella the next day?
He was planning on coming to Coachella with us. At some point we were talking about what was happening the next day, and so that night he told us he was going to come to Coachella with us the next day.
Okay. And did he ultimately come to Coachella with you the next day?
No.
Okay. I'm going to jump forward to talk about some statements that were made, the counterclaim. What, if any, observations did you make about how the statements, we're talking about the three statements that we're quoting Adam Waldman, impacted Amber? and I'm asking for your observations. Just tell the jury what your observations were of how these statements impacted Amber.
Objection, Your Honor. Compound, lack of foundation, speculation.
Overruled, that's fine.
Thank you.
Amber has worked so hard to overcome everything that she went through in the duration of their relationship. She has really, really tried her best to move past it. And anybody that knows Amber at all knows that some of the most important things to her are honesty, integrity. Her reputation is all she has. She doesn't have piles of money and private islands or...
Objection, Your Honor. It's non-responsive.
I'll sustain the objection.
Please continue with what
she was devastated by these. To say that they're not true, it devastated her. And also, we had just buried our mother. So Amber, she started having panic attacks randomly. She was not sleeping.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
These are your observations. Thank you. Please continue.
These statements devastated her. They devastated her because they weren't true, and they were just very, very, very much affecting her.
And you talked about panic attacks. What else did you observe that she would do as a result of these? Physical.
She would just periodically just break into tears. She I don't know how else to describe it. She was so unwell. She stopped sleeping again. She was super anxious. She couldn't relax. She couldn't sit still. It was very similar to the Amber that I had seen back in 2016 as she was trying to get out of this relationship. It launched her back into this space where she was just so physically unwell, and she cried a lot.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Henriquez. We haven't met before. My name's Rebecca Lecaros. I'm one of the lawyers representing Mr. Depp in this case. You grew up in Texas with your sister and your parents, right?
Correct.
And you were really close with Ms. Heard growing up?
We were.
And you're still close now, right?
We are.
And you love her?
Of course.
And your childhood, though, had some difficult moments, right?
It wasn't perfect.
Your father hit you and your sister at times, right?
Yes.
And your sister would protect you from that abuse when she could, wouldn't she?
We would protect each other, for sure.
And when you graduated from high school, you moved out to Los Angeles, right?
I did.
And your sister gave you a place to live in LA?
Yes.
And she helped support you?
In part, I also was working myself, and yeah.
And you're grateful to her for being there when you needed her, right?
Of course.
And just like she protected and cared for you, you want to protect and care for her, right?
And when I can, of course, but yeah.
You testified to having a great relationship with Mr. Depp when you first started dating your sister, right?
Correct.
And you thought of him as a brother?
Yes.
He called you sis?
Yes.
And you had affectionate nicknames for him too, didn't you?
A number of them, yes.
Yeah. And you testified that for a time you lived in the ECB penthouses with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard.
That's correct.
And Mr. Depp owned those penthouses?
He did.
You didn't pay rent while you were living there, right?
No.
You didn't pay for any of the bills for the penthouses?
No. It's very generous.
And Rocky Pennington lived in one of those penthouses also, right?
She did.
And at some point her boyfriend Josh Drew moved in, right?
Yes.
And Isaac Baruch lived in one of those penthouses too.
Yes.
And you know that he testified here that you call him your spirit animal, right?
I did not know that, but he's wonderful.
Yeah. You call him your spirit animal?
At one point I did, yes.
You took trips with your sister and Mr. Depp also, right?
Occasionally.
You didn't pay for those either, right?
Nope, I did not.
During the course of Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's relationship, you were frequently involved in their arguments, weren't you?
Yes,
In fact, you had a nickname, right?
marriage counselor.
Yes. You often found yourself mediating disputes between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, right?
Clearly not very well, but yes.
And when you were in that role of marriage counselor, you empathized with Mr. Depp, right?
Yes, on occasion.
Because you had a pretty good understanding of what he was going through?
Depended on the situation. Sometimes I could totally see from his perspective. Other times I saw it from her perspective.
Well, you'd been there with Ms. Heard before, right?
We're sisters. Of course we've argued.
And you knew what it was like to want to run away for days and do your own thing and not have Ms. Heard there fighting with you, right?
I think that's kind of taken out of context a little bit. I think more metaphorically. But yes, I have been in arguments with my sister.
And you have wanted to run away for days, right?
Sure.
And not have her there fighting with you.
Sure.
You talked a little bit about the incident in March 2013, right?
Which one?
That was the one before you went to the Keith Richards
Yes.
documentary set? And you were present with Mr. Depp at Orange that day?
I was.
Didn't you do cocaine with Mr. Depp that afternoon?
Yes.
And you said Mr. Depp's already intoxicated?
He was by the time I got there.
And he was fighting with your sister?
He wasn't doing much of anything. He was sat at the table. He was telling me about the fight that they had.
So
he
he'd
was kind of
been
ignoring.
fighting with your sister that day when you arrived?
That was my understanding.
And you said she had a puffy face?
Yes.
And despite all of that, you decided it was a good idea to do cocaine with Mr. Depp at that juncture?
I hadn't yet connected the dots. I hadn't yet understood what that meant or what that would do.
That was a yes? Yes, you took cocaine with Mr. Depp after
I
all
did.
that?
Yes, I already said that.
You testified that you had suspicions that Mr. Depp was allegedly hitting your sister by some point in 2013, right?
Suspicions.
And notwithstanding that, in June 2013, you were actually joking with Mr. Depp about hitting your sister, right?
Regrettably over a text message, yes.
That you were encouraging him to hit her,
I was not literally encouraging him to hit her.
but you were joking about it.
Regrettably, yes. Again, I did not have an understanding fully of what that was. I never would have said that now, knowing what I know.
But that was around the time that you allegedly became aware that he was.
I don't
there were
know.
injuries on your sister that caused you to have suspicions.
I don't know if it was around the same time.
Turning to the staircase incident in March 2015, you testified that Mr. Depp allegedly hit you during that incident, right?
Yes.
But you aren't sure if that contact was even meant for you, right?
I honestly don't. I don't know what he was aiming for. My back was to him.
And you weren't injured during that incident, right?
No, I wasn't.
And you didn't seek medical attention?
No,
And you said Debbie Lloyd was there during all of that, correct?
she was.
And Mr. Depp's security, Travis McGivern, was there too?
Yes, he was.
And you saw your sister hit Mr. Depp on the stairs that day, right?
After he struck me, yes.
You said she landed one, right? And then the next day you found some damage in the adjoining penthouse.
Correct.
And we saw some pictures of what you saw that day, right?
Yes.
You thought it was important to document that damage, right?
Not to document. It was Kevin's job to kind of clean up the houses, take care of the houses. I took pictures just so he could be aware of what he would need to bring. I didn't know if he had tools here or whatever. I was just preparing him for what he was going to have to fix.
But you didn't take any pictures of your sister that day, right?
No, I didn't.
Now, after March 2015, you continued to have a close relationship with Mr. Depp, right?
Yes,
And you still loved him.
of course.
And you were there for him if he needed you, right?
Of course.
And in fact, just a couple of weeks after that staircase incident, you were still acting as the marriage counselor, weren't you?
At some point, sure.
And that fall, after the staircase incident, October 2015, you claim you had seen Mr. Depp hitting your sister. And then in October 2015, you were actually still trying to reconcile him and your sister when they were fighting, right?
Yes, I was asked to support. I was just trying to help what I thought they both wanted. I was just trying to support, or trying my best to support them the way that I thought I could.
You still loved Mr. Depp at that point, right?
I did.
And you didn't think that he and your sister were past the point of no return, right?
What I thought was irrelevant at that point. I really, those two were in love and they were working very hard. They wanted to be together, it seemed like, so I just helped as best as I could. I don't know how else to describe it.
Your sister still wanted to be with Mr. Depp, right?
And she loved him.
And you didn't think they were past the point of no return?
I don't know what you mean by that exactly.
Okay. Let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 1283. It's not yet in evidence. We'll just show that to the witness. I've got this, if I might approach, Your Honor, I have this in redacted and unredacted.
Okay, you want to come forward?
Pull up 1283. Ms. Enriquez, if I could just direct your attention, we can go to the third page, please.
Do I have control of this or no?
No, you do not. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
we'll put it up for you. And we can go back to the first page if you'd like, or we can take a look at the unredacted version if we need to. But do you recognize these as text messages that you sent to Mr. Depp on October 2nd, 2015?
Yeah, vaguely. I mean, they're clearly my text messages, but yeah, I recognize them, I think.
Okay. And if we can go to the third page, please, Tom. And you'll see the second blue box from the bottom there. You texted Mr. Depp and you said, "I love both of you so much and would fucking stay out of it if I thought this shit were past the point of no return." Mm-hmm. But that's not where you guys are right now. Did I read that right?
Oh, but that's not where you guys are at. Yes.
So you didn't think they were past the point of no return in October 2015, right?
At that point, clearly I didn't.
You can take that down.
Oh.
You wanted Ms. Heard to stay with Mr. Depp even after you allegedly saw him hit her, right?
That's really oversimplifying something that's far from simple. Again, Amber was very much in love. So was Johnny. She's telling me that she wants something. Whether or not I agreed to it or not, whether or not I was okay with what was happening, it wasn't my place. If my sister said that she still wanted to be with Johnny, and if I could help with that in any way, I was going to support her. I was going to be there for her to support that.
Yeah, you didn't want to contradict your sister, right?
Pardon?
You didn't want to contradict your sister.
I don't know if I'd characterize it that way. I was trying to support my sister the best that I could or knew how or thought she wanted.
And you say you wanted to protect her, though, right?
At that point, I don't know if I would categorize it as that. I was just trying to support my sister.
You went to Coachella with your sister for her 30th birthday in 2016, right?
Yes.
And you testified that you were aware, I believe, that she and Mr. Depp had fought the night before?
You could turn your microphone on, Ms. Bretterhoff.
Never mind, I withdraw that objection.
Okay, withdrawn. All right. You can answer the question, ma'am.
Yes, I was aware that they had argued the night before.
You didn't see any bruises on Ms. Heard at Coachella that year, though, right?
Yeah, she was wearing a lot of makeup.
You didn't see any marks on her?
Not that I can recall.
Didn't notice any swelling, right?
To the best of my recollection, I don't.
And your sister didn't have a working phone on her that day, did she?
No, she didn't.
But you did?
Yes, it did.
And you wanted Mr. Depp to know that Ms. Heard's phone wasn't working, right?
I believe I reached out to him for her, yeah.
And you were encouraging him to reach out to her through you if he was trying to reach her, right?
I believe so at one point, yes.
You didn't want him to think that he was ignoring her.
I'm sorry?
You didn't want him to think that he was ignoring her, right?
Sure.
And you wanted them to reconcile, didn't you?
Amber really wanted him there. Despite the fact that they had had a fight the night before, it was very complicated. It was very nuanced. You know, they fought, they got back together. They fought, they loved each other. They hated each other, they loved each other. I just remember her wanting Johnny to come to Coachella at some point. I wasn't trying to reconcile them. I was just trying to help facilitate.
And you did that even though you were concerned about marks that you say you'd seen on her since at least 2013 and during the course of their relationship, right?
Again, that's really oversimplifying something. We all saw this. We all thought that we would see Johnny on the other end of this. Because again, when he was sober, things were wonderful. When he wasn't sober, they were terrible, sure, but we all thought that he was just going to get better. We all wanted to just see the other side of that. So yes, sure, if you look at it simply, but it's not simple at all. I don't know how else to answer it.
And this was after you allegedly saw him hit her, right?
Yes.
And you knew that they had just had another fight, right?
Yes.
You know who Jennifer Howell is, right, Ms. Henriquez?
I do.
She's the founder of the Art of Elysium nonprofit.
She is.
And you worked there for a time, didn't you?
I did.
Around May 2015, you actually moved in with Ms. Howell, right?
May 2015?
15?
Yes.
And you moved out of the penthouses because at that point you and your sister were fighting, right?
It was around the time that, he had accused me of leaking stories, and that was the impetus of me leaving.
And you testified earlier, I think, that he had asked you to sign an NDA, right?
At some point.
And that was around the same time that he was concerned you were leaking stories about their wedding to the media?
I believe so.
You and Ms. Howell were close?
We were.
Close enough that you lived with her for around a year?
I don't recall if it was that long.
And you confided in Ms. Howell, right?
About some things, yes. She was my friend.
You called her your chosen sister. Ms. Henriquez, you claim to have seen signs of injuries on your sister during the course of her relationship with Mr. Depp, right?
Yes.
But you never witnessed any incidents that resulted in visible injuries to your sister, right?
Other than the staircase incident? I witnessed that incident. What are you asking me exactly?
You never witnessed any incidents that resulted in signs of injury that you were concerned about over the course of their relationship?
Other than the staircase incident, I did witness that.
No, at no other time when you...
No, that was the only time that I saw him.
And you didn't see what caused any of the injuries you claim to have seen during the course of their relationship, right? Other than the staircase incident.
Yeah, staircase incident is the only one that I saw.
But you have seen your sister land a blow on Mr. Depp, right?
That was the time, yes, after he hit me.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
I have no redirect.
All right, is this witness subject to recall?
No, she may be excused.
Is subject to recall? No. Okay, all right, ma'am, you are free to go, or you can stay in the courtroom. It's up to you, okay? Thank you.